Of all the reaction videos on Etika's passing, I'm going to talk about what I am not hearing to date in many of the reaction videos to his passing. So today I will dispense with the usual intros. There are things that are not being said in all the videos and posts as mentioned about the death of gaming YouTuber Desmond Amofah, otherwise known as Etika. For one, even though the stigma surrounding mental illness is being lifted, albeit at a snail's pace, are we really doing all we could as a society to help? And that's something else we really have to think about as a society. And I don't mean sticking a Bell Let's Talk avatar every January on social media, or do like Burger King and sell unhappy meals in brightly colored boxes. Nor do I mean copying and pasting suicide hotlines on Facebook pages every holiday season. Neither does anything. They are just feel-good memes. Nothing more. For openers, suicide hotlines are far from ideal. For one, when you call, you don't actually get a human voice at the other end of the line. Eric, aka Driven Industries, made a call to the National Suicide Hotline in the United States last night on his live stream to demonstrate exactly what happens when you
I'll give you
call.
an idea. Okay, so for in the U.S., the suicide prevention line is 1-800-273-8255. Here's what happens when you call the suicide hotline. I do this all the time. But blame YouTube.
One moment. You have reached the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, also servicing the Veterans Crisis Line. Para español, oprime el número 2. If you are in emotional distress or suicidal crisis, or are concerned about someone who might be, we're here to help. Please remain on the line while we route your call to the nearest crisis center in our network. Attention! If you are a U.S. military
This is the suicide hotline, by the way. So
member,
you want to commit
calling
suicide,
the
and you're going to
please
call this
press
for support.
1 now to speak with the Veterans Crisis Line. This call may be monitored or recorded for quality control.
A recorded message answers, and it's pretty much the same here in Canada. Is a distressed person really going to take the time to listen to some pre-recorded monotonic vocal instructions, perhaps accompanied by elevator music? Are they going to pay attention to vocal instructions on what buttons to press on their phones? I mean, seriously? Then, one, more often than not, is put on hold. Once again, does anyone think a person in crisis is going to hang around their phone on hold? I know I wouldn't. It's also passing the buck. I have noticed more often than not when some of us try to reach out to someone, even someone considered a friend or family member or even a spouse, for our trouble, we get the trope, get help. And it means get professional help. It's passing the buck, and it's got to stop. After all, you never know when or if you may fall into a predicament where you end up broken or things are going so badly you perhaps don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. Forgive me for using the cliches. I'm reasonably certain you would prefer that person, that someone you know and trust, someone you reach out to sit with you in the dark, so to speak, and provide that sympathetic ear. Do unto others, I always say. Ever notice that a lot of the time it's those of us who are broken or have been broken more often than not, we're the first ones to lend a helping hand to someone in need? Something to think about. Since I have never heard of Etika before yesterday, as I am not a gamer, I am going to go by the quick research I did this morning some of the videos I've watched. First, just a little bit of background on him. Etika, aka Desmond Amofah, had a gaming channel on YouTube with a substantial following, as I mentioned. That is until last fall when he basically tanked his channel. According to the information out there, he uploaded some hentai, which, for those of you who don't know, and I didn't know before a few hours ago, it is Japanese anime porn. He ended up getting his channel shut down. For a while, Desmond, and I'm going to call him by his real name for the rest of this video because, like everybody else out there on social media, he was a real person behind the online persona, antics and all. I believe he also got shut down for another reason, but I don't remember what that was. But at this time, that is neither here nor there. Desmond was becoming better known for his antics on camera than for his gaming content. Even after being shut down, he was still active on other social media platforms like Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. It had been a while people were speculating about Desmond's mental health, it would seem. Some even hinting at bipolar disorder. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not a professional. Not for me. Last April, he was filmed live on Instagram having a standoff with police who subsequently took him to the psych ward. Reactions were predictably mixed, according to the chat that went along with that. Some trolling and being basically ignorant as to what was happening, others with genuine concern. I only mention this incident because all I am seeing pretty much ad nauseum from the videos I am seeing to date is, why didn't he seek help? Well, he was on a psych ward and held, not for sure for how long. It's the platitude I see here and over again. What folks mean by help regarding somebody with mental health crisis is professional help, of course. Go to the hospital even for inpatient treatment. Do you some good to get a rest. It's just another way of passing the buck once again. And that is a huge part of problem in today's society. I will get more into detail about that very shortly. First, let's dispel some myths about the psych ward. Any psych ward, really. People outside the mental health communities either are calling the cops for a so-called wellness check. People seem to love to think a stint on the psych ward will make things all better. I am here to refute that meme. It is not a cure at all. Not by a long shot. If anything, the very environment and routine of a psych ward can be very triggering and distressing for many, thus further exacerbating the problem. Would be in order. Meanwhile, please take it from somebody who has been there. It's anything but helpful. The best way I can put it, Anne Thériault is the one who put it actually, a blogger, journalist, author here in Canada, who writes often about mental health and women's issues of the day here in Canada. She has a blog called The Bell Jar. Bell spelt with an E at the end. And she said it best a long time ago, and to paraphrase her, she said, "The hospital will only keep you alive, but it does not teach you how to live." Very powerful statement that remained etched in my mind to this day. What happens is you're basically warehoused and babysat. Not much else happens. One example I can provide from pop culture was the soap opera star Christophe St. John's son, who took his own life several years ago. He was hospitalized, probably in the best money can buy. It did not save him. Another thing to think about is exactly how does a disgusting place with the strong stench of urine and antiseptic with people wailing and screaming continuously under bad neon lighting help anyone? Trust me, it's like being in the city lockup for a weekend. It's that bad, only without clothes. At least in city lockup, you can keep your clothes. You get one interview, tops, basically where they, psychiatrist, doctor, social worker, etc., ask for reassurance that you will not harm yourself or anyone else if you're released. We all know we can lie just to get the hell out of there. And we've done it. Take it from someone who knows. Here in Montreal, and I suspect most in Canada as well, the psych ward or psych emergency room is indeed the fourth circle of hell. Next, many are blaming social media on Desmond's passing. And yeah, there have been articles and videos out about social media and mental health. But again, we can't really do that. It's too oversimplified. Granted, many trolls are, to say the least, very cruel and childish and distasteful, to put it mildly. They come out to cyberbully. Of course, that is never helpful, and if anything, it would further prod somebody on to harm themselves. Yes, many folks have taken their own lives due to relentless cyberbullying. But you know what, folks? So does actual bullying in person. And we tend to forget that in the day and age of social media, thinking that this only happens online. Gotta get out of that mind frame. Yes, we all must play a part in trying to prevent cyberbullying and be vigilant for ourselves when we put ourselves out there. But again, it does not speak for those bullied in school or in the workplace or even abused in their own homes, where one is supposed to feel safe. About a week ago, I believe on June 19th, Desmond uploaded a video of him on a cell phone basically saying goodbye to everyone he knew and apologizing profusely and repeatedly to many and for pretty much everything. And not just transgressions he may well have been responsible for, but also for things quite likely, if I'm to speculate, that were not of his doing or out of his own control. Again, speculating here on the latter. However, those of us with mental health issues and or chronic physical conditions do tend to feel they are a burden on their loved ones or on society in general, and find themselves apologizing for even breathing or existing. That video was taken down by YouTube, however. There are plenty of YouTubers re-uploading that last video of Desmond's in question. His video is just one example illustrating any reason why many suffering may not seek help or be less than forthcoming with healthcare professionals of any stripe or even with their own friends and family. What is not being talked about, however, and this does not pertain to Desmond, Etika, Amofah exclusively, I must stress. I'm speaking in generalities now. What are the reasons why someone would feel to be a burden? I'm going to touch on that now. For many years now, with the rise of motivational speakers, the Anthony Robbins of the world, the Oprah Winfreys of the world, the new so-called professions of life and coaches and relationship and dating gurus, continued rise of pop psychology online, the increasingly shallowness of society, the mantra of positivity is being rammed down our throats. Fake it to make it is the new slogan being bandied about. It is also proven to do more harm than good. It forces those of us who are not okay for any reason at all to suffer in silence and to feel very much alone with no end to whatever personal hell one is going through, whatever that may be. Mercifully, there have been studies and articles publishing the harm this endless worshiping at the altar of positivity really is. The whole happy, happy, joy, joy. I actually plan to do a video on that somewhere down the road, so I won't devote too much time for that today. Just putting it out there. We see the slogan often, it's okay to not be okay. However, those who say it, by that is, how many of those people who say it is okay to not be okay really mean that? How many actually take the time to listen to somebody in distress or in crisis mode? Be it a family member, your spouse, friend, coworker, etc. I can say firsthand, not too many. I'm sure many of you, dear viewers, would agree on that score. Perhaps even experienced it yourselves. At the end of all my videos, part of my closing is take care of yourselves and each other. Emphasis on each other. I also go on to add that if there's somebody vulnerable in your midst, please take the time to check in on them. Sometimes just a sympathetic ear or even a coffee or a meal with them would make all the difference in the world. This is not some meaningless tagline. I actually do mean that. As a society, we need to do a better job of helping our fellow man and being more empathetic. Because right now, we ain't doing such a hell of a good job right now. Eric, aka Driven Industry, alluded to kindness last night. And how kindness was needed, how we needed to be better towards each other in his live stream last night. And kids, he really does walk the walk. He will answer you if you text or call him. I had the privilege of interviewing for my video series on employment and mental health issues just last week. He really is what you see in his videos. He is indeed a busy man, but he will take the time to listen if you need. He gives out his number on all social media platforms for one to call. There are other YouTubers in the mental health or addiction community who do just that. And I tip my hat to those people. Myself, how often have I seen some red flags go up amongst my Facebook friends and followers on my newsfeed? Indications of distress, trying to find somebody to reach out to. I do my best to respond to all of them in private message, offering a sympathetic ear. And we should talk about it. Well, we need to do more than just talk. We need action. Another trope I keep hearing is that whenever somebody even hints at harming themselves in any shape or form, people react by saying, "Oh, she's being dramatic. Oh, he's just trying to get attention. They're not really going to harm themselves." Is this something we really want to take a chance with? Yes, of course there are those who use the threat of self-harm, suicide to gain attention, or for some similar reason. However, we might want to ask ourselves, why would any given person go to such extreme measures just to get a little attention or to get someone to hear them? Really, it's a double-edged sword. We encourage those who are thinking of harming themselves to talk about it, to reach out. But on the other hand, when a person in crisis mode expresses those ideations, we often accuse them and dismiss them as being dramatic or attention-seeking. It's so true. Sometimes talking to someone who is not a professional can go a lot further. Folks love to blame YouTube and other social media platforms for mental illness. Well, that is not entirely true, as I mentioned. I'm not saying it's completely innocent, far from it, but it is, again, oversimplifying. One example I can give you, I was a kid of the 80s, the decade of excess, and believe me, those of you who weren't around for it, it earned the slogan, the decade of excess. It earned that title. It promoted selfishness, obtaining more material possessions. It was getting that. This was, and still is today, how humans are measured. What their possessions are, and how much they have. Sad culture. I should add, there was no social media back then. No. Yet folks were just as self-involved as they are today. We live in a throwaway society. Getting older, you're washed up, gone. You don't follow any societal standard, gone. No place for you. Can't fit in, tough. Don't have money or status, you have no place here amongst us. Well, My life is so much better now, and I have friends now, so you don't have any more place in my life. Believe me, this happens regular to many, including myself. I don't have to tell you how much all that really hurts. See how this goes? Loneliness is a growing epidemic. You heard that right, epidemic. And it's not just me saying that, many studies as of late are calling it that. It has been deemed in many articles as the new smoking. And it is how serious it is. Humans are meant to have human interaction and contact. We need a sense of belonging. We are not meant to be in isolation. Conform to the norm is the order of the day. Many of us who never fit in strive to fit in, but never do. I would argue that social media and mental health are indeed a double-edged sword. Sure, social media can exacerbate mental health issues, but on the other hand, some of us were able to find some semblance of belonging, a certain community, if you will, where we couldn't in our real lives, in our own environments. I know this is the case for yours truly. I wouldn't have any contact with anyone if it hadn't been for social media. Has it been all positive for me? Well, no, of course not, like anyone else. But I'm not going to delve much into that today. Again, another video for another time. There were other societal issues. Racism, for instance. Desmond was African American, who would likely have faced racism within his own community or in his own environment, both online and in real life. I mention this because the aspect of racism and mental health issues are not nearly discussed as often as it should be or could be. Could racism have played some role in Desmond's passing? It's a question that should be asked. Bigotry of any kind is the worst form of bullying. Then, of course, there is the issue of video games and those addicted to them. And make no mistake, video games have been classified as a vice one can be addicted to. The World Health Organization has classified video game addiction as a mental illness several years ago. I have personally witnessed some of the gamers almost go manic when they're playing. In some of the clips I have seen of Desmond, he appeared to be quite manic over some of the games he was playing or live streaming. Could that have been a cause? By the way, Eric, Driven Industries, did an interesting video not that long ago on his channel about how video game addiction has been classified as a mental illness. So might want to go check that out. I understand that playing video games on camera was pretty much his livelihood, as it is for many YouTube gamers out there. But it doesn't mean that the addiction is not present and thus exacerbating conditions already. At this point, as mentioned, we can only speculate about Desmond's passing. Other than his goodbye video posted on June 19th, there really aren't any other clues as to what really was going on with him in the last months, except for perhaps whatever he might have said on any of his streams. We don't know what went on the last months, last days, or even last moments of his life. At any rate, it is pointless to speculate right now. But what we can do is learn from his passing or the passing of others. We do this by helping our fellow man. We do this by showing kindness and empathy. We do this by checking in on those who are more vulnerable and at risk. We do this by being better friends. You know, when somebody passes either by their own hand or by illness or an accident, how often do we hear mourners at a funeral home say, I should have gotten together with so-and-so. I regret not having seen them. Well, how about we do better? We find the time to go to the funeral. How about we find the time to appreciate them when they're alive and spending time with them? We walk the walk. What I mean by this is more than just posting memes or copying and pasting suicide hotlines on our social media pages once again. We reach out to them. We listen without judgment. We spend more time with them. We actually put all of that into practice in our daily lives. Not saying we cure mental illness this way. There is no cure. Is taking time to be kind and empathetic and helping our fellow man guarantee to prevent self-harm or suicide? No. However, it could well save quite a few people. In my book, if you can save just one life, it is already a huge step ahead. It is a huge victory. That's going to do it for this video. Please take care of yourselves and each other, especially if someone in distress reaches out to you. Please take the time to listen or spend time with them. You never know who you might need in your time of crisis. Please look in on those most vulnerable or at risk amidst your environment. It can make all the difference in the world. Straight Talk and Fedora Chick, over and out.